Well, I don't think the headlight will work. Oh, this thing will work. Ah, all right. Well, back to the drawing board. I think I'm gonna have to. How can I do this? I'll probably have to. I'm not sure how I'm gonna cut. I'm glad I only tacked it in two places. That way, I know I'm gonna have to do something to it. Let me think about that, and let me go grab the bumper. I want to get the bumper done first. This is this is something I'm gonna have to think about. You know, you can always just cut it, but man, you're cutting off an awful lot of intake flow. And how am I gonna do it? Don't know yet, but we will get to it. Best lay plans, you know. All right, let me figure out how I'm gonna do that. But let me get the bumper, and let's start figuring out where we're gonna cut in order to get the bumper and everything squared away with that. That's pretty much equidistant. The headlight trim ring will come to right about here, so I need to keep this tab. This hood pin, I don't really like how stiff it is with this plate because I haven't bent it up. What I am going to do, in order to do the intake, I am going to cut this right here. I'm going to build tabs off to mount this because this is all wavy and it kind of looks like they wanted it right here, but it's not going to go there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this straight over, and then I'm going to build a new section right here. But I will first get the intake on for the turbo to get this straight in. I need to do that first before I do anything else because this, you know, this is the way I have to do it, and I have to modify this section in order to get that in there. You know, it's one thing after another. At least, you know, like I said before, I'm glad I only tacked it because I got to cut it and rotate it. All right, well, no better time than the present. All right, we have the intake for the turbocharger done. I did not weld or tack anything onto these two pipes, just in case I might have to do something, just to massage them a little bit. They're pretty much all set. I mean, yes, I'm going to have to take off the air intake pipe to the air filter in order to change the bulb in the light or pull the light itself. It's going to be one of the two, but at least it's only going to be a couple clamps and one bolt, to do that, and then I can stick my hand, because I already looked inside, I can stick my hand and pull the bulb right out. That's cool. We also have to make the top adjuster, and depending on how I massage this is determined by how I put the hood pin. That's going to be that question. But for right now, I'm happy with where that is, and I got to get on to fixing more of my screw ups. You can take a look at this screw up, which is yeah, it is. It's just another screw up. So here, let me show you this. This is my screw up because I forgot all about it when I did the Sport Quattro bumper. The Sport Quattro bumper goes straight down and back in with very little curve back in. This thing goes in like it has the valence in the original Euro bumper. It goes back, and what it is the mounts for the intercooler on the bottom are way too far out. I can do a couple things. First one, I can slice them out and basically try and push it back, but we have to make up 1.5 inches. That's a lot of space. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut the mounts off, bring them back as far as I can. I might raise them up a little bit, because the more you raise them up, the more clearance you build in, and the more clearance you'll build in with this. And I still have it, to the top of here is about 1 inch to the top of the engine with the intercooler. So I can still raise it up. I can let the pipe down a little bit. I can cut the pipe down a little bit more. What that does actually decreases the amount of airflow or amount of air distance through the intercooler. But the whole thing is, I screwed up. I didn't think about that. I completely forgot about it. So let me cut these off, and then I got to cut the studs off, or little studs off of the bottom of the intercooler, and then we'll figure out exactly where it's going to go. That's what you get when you experiment with this stuff. But hey, listen, you live and learn, and it's all by inches. But they're all built. I don't have to figure out what I need to build. All I do is figure out where they have to go now. So, which is a good thing. All right, let me pull this off and let me cut these off, and I'll get this thing squared away, and then we'll start working on the final mounting for the bumper off of these. And as soon as we get this thing, put in. So, all right, let me go get my garb on. I'll pull the intercooler, and we'll make it all work. All right, this thing is touching down here and it's touching up here. It's straight up and down. The main thing is this portion of the fender and the bumper, that's the height that we need to have. We got to keep this height, because remember, I pulled this upwards to flex where I hollowed out down inside here in order to fit the A-pillar and to build the door cap. We have to keep that. So this side, moving in and out, no problem. I do have some leeway down there, and I can always rebuild the plate because it's only tacked in. It's not really welded in. That's that's down the road. The first thing is we got to set the height of the intercooler so we can dig out where we're going to need the intercooler for, or where the intercooler is actually going to be finally placed. Then we can set the mounts and build the mounts onto what we have here to be exact. We know this bumper will be exactly the height that we need. Then we can manipulate the bottom. It's back and forth, back and forth. It's basically the tennis match of of bodywork. All right, let me go over there and grab some more intercooler parts, and let's set the intercooler. Here's a position where I want it. I have just enough room to get the alternator belt off. No problem, doesn't interfere with anything, but you can see this bushing right here, it's only half on. I want full contact on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the posts that I cut off of here, weld it to a small plate like this, and then where the plate is, I will tack it onto this, and that way you get full contact with the rubber bushing. That way it maintains equal pressure all the way around. If I want to build a little thing up right here, I will. Probably not, but it'll actually create a little bit more stiffness in the panel, but that way, you know, because I'm going to make a thing that comes up here, right there. But other than that, you know, I think that's going to be the best because it gives us full contact with the isolator mount right there. And then we can set the other side. And, you know, it's going to be pretty cool. That way I can get it all squared away, you know. Kind of like it. Pretty cool. All right, let me go weld those old tabs onto these two plates, and we'll start setting everything up. Sure it's correct. I'm just going to cut it by little by little by little because I want to do at least amount of cutting and I want to do at least amount of taking out of this bumper. So, because it's so expensive. All right. Check it out. I got it as close as I could to the intercooler, wrapped around. Now I might get a little bit more because it is kind of tight, but when I bring it up like that, it's, you know, you do have gaps in between it, but not much. But I'll probably do a little bit more trimming. But the thing is, right now I just want to get the height absolutely set. I know this is completely flat against the fenders. And now that we can do that, we can set the height exactly with metal pieces welded onto this. That way we can continue on, cut these off, and start making the mounts for the auxiliary lights. All right, here we have the basically the mounts for the top of the bumper. What is this doing? The only thing it has to do is set the height of the bumper. That's it. It's not doing anything else. As far as I know, you know, if it works where I can weld something under this to have the bottom part of the grill hold onto it, I'll do it, but I don't really know right yet. The thing is, the way the grill sits, I gotta do some work on that anyway. And when I figure out how it's going to work, I don't know. But step by step. First step right here, we have the height. Oh, also, one of my screw-ups. You sent me, and the only thing I filmed was me making the lines right here on this one. You know, putting it right, no, don't do that, because you have to have this side on the bottom. So you have to just take your hand, you have to go, you know, it's like, no grain loss because I can use it on the other side. I just cut this one up for this side. I just thought I'd let you know, I don't want to, you know, mislead you down a path where you're going to say, hey, wait a minute, that's how they did it, you know? And we don't need to have that here in YouTube land. Other than that, what is this doing? This is all it is, set the height, so it doesn't have to be pretty strong. It's just relatively stiff. It's steel. It's a table leg, you know, from one of those setup tables or whatever you want to call them. It sets the height. I have the height already set. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clean that off. I am going to put this in and just give it a tack, you know, on both sides. And once that's tacked in, because it's going to be, you know, flush right here, that way I can put a screw in here and set the bumper exact. And then we can start building off and how we're going to build all the mounts, the whole house, the auxiliary lights. Plus we have to start doing the ducting after that. So. Well, we got the height set. Yeah, that's good too. All right, well, I think we have it all set up. Now, let me run up. I'm going to go up and grab my computer. And I'm going to show you a way the factory had their light set up on, you know, through the bumpers. And then I'm going to show you what lights I have, and we're going to make them fit the car. At least we're going to try. You know, let me see what I can pull out of the junk bin to make it work. All right, I'll be back in a second. All right. Now my computer, and this is a picture that I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to put an arrow right to it. This is where they mount the auxiliary lights. It's a small plate right there. I remember it. If I remember, it goes like a triangle almost into a bar. But we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be doing something like that. Because if you take a look at this, all the open ports right here. This one's a small one. And we don't have that. Ours are all the same length. But also, another thing is the reason why I don't want to do, I'm going to do something, how can I put this? I'm going to make it a little bit easier for us to put the lights on. And it's going to be using two sections. I'll show you here in just a second what I got and what I'm going to use and why I'm going to use it. But, you know, what do I have? I have this. These are my old rally lights. I have two, you know, this is one set and I have another set sitting over there. These are the rally lights that I'm going to use. This came off my old rally car. I just built that out of just, you know, 1/4-inch friggin' steel. It's what I had, you know. And what I'm going to do is just tailor the mount to this car. And what I want to do is use the upper and lower. And the reason why I kind of want to do it, it's going to be like a two-piece mount. I'm going to show you this. Here's a picture of the rally lights. Take a look at the very top. There's stabilizer bars on the top of those lights so they don't bounce around. You know what? I kind of don't want to use that because these are not drilled for it. I would have to put you know, I'd have to drill and put a bolt and all that stuff in. I just don't want to do it yet. You know, if I have to, I have to. But it's pretty much, you know, they're pretty much for show. You know, and the reason why I want to use these is because I built them a long time ago, and these are the 6 lights that I have that actually have covers for them. I have a bunch of the Bosch ones, the old Bosch Rally ones, but I don't have all the covers to cover them up. So that's kind of the reason why. But we will get on to doing, you know, into that later here. All right, the first thing is, let's go over to the bumper. I want to show you what I want to use to make the actual lights and the reason why I'm going to be changing on how the factory set it up. You know, it's mainly for practicality wise and for ease of putting them on. That's my whole thing. So let's go over there. Let me show you what I got, and then we will set everything up and start cutting it and welding it in. We're here at the front of the bumper. Okay, we have a couple of things we have to do. First design criteria, we have to put the lights on. Second design criteria, let's not mess anything up. And you're probably saying, what do you mean by that? All right, down here was the original setup for the rally car auxiliary lamps. And you notice in this picture, this section is, this right here is not the same as this. This goes over to here and up, so it's only this wide. Seeing how we have this open right here, it feeds the intercooler. What do I want to do? Well, I want to make two mounts. Because we have our mount right here that bolts onto the frame rail, I want to connect the main mount for the lights right here, but I don't want to block any of the intercooler core. Because, you know, you have to remember, I'm not an engineer, I don't know, I'm estimating on whether or not the intercooler is going to be, you know, sufficient enough or not, so I'm not going to block any of it if I can. You know, I don't want to block any of it because of my fault. So, we'll make the mount like that, and we'll make the mount down here. And what does that do for us for mounting the lights? Well, it gives us two mounting points, and it gives us a tripod effect, which is we have two bolts up here and one bolt in the bottom. Now, if we have one bolt, which I'm almost thinking about using a slip joint where you can slip it in and just curve it up and go in like that, because that way you can hold it with one hand and screw the bolts in just with your fingers, you know, with the other hand. So you don't need two people to freaking put the lights on, or just, you know, trying to push it and all this other stuff. It's just a pain in the butt. But that, we will get down to that here when I get to that point, because I have to see, and after everything's built, I have to look at it and say, okay, that will work. Now, then again, it might not, don't know. So what we have to do first is we have to start cutting up the plates to make this, you know, to make the assembly to start welding onto this mount. And what do I have? Well, right here is a 2-inch angle iron. And I found this, it probably came from a snowplow. I don't know, but I grabbed it anyway. And I looked at it going, geez, that looks awful close to this. Well, now we know a 2-inch, you know, angle iron will go right in, and you hear that, it misses it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it to the length of this plate right here, because I'm going to use this as the mount on the actual light assembly. And if you look at it like that, it gives me just enough room where I can cut it right here, and that way, if this thing goes like this, it misses the intercooler. So what happens? We don't have the lights, you know, this width is only, I don't have to cut it once. That's a good thing, you know, and I can get two sections out of this to make one, you know, both sides, and then we'll start figuring out how we're going to do the mounts in the bottom and how we're going to, you know, put them back up into this bar to make it stiff, because we also have to make a bar on the top of this to go all the way over to make this entire bumper, you know, stationary, you know, and I want to tie them in between here and there, so everything is basically, how can I put this, tied in together like a roll cage, you know. Whether or not it'll work is another thing, but let me give it a shot. First things first, let me start cutting this up. I also have a way of mounting up everything. It's going to be a little easier, especially in the field if you're just one person trying to put the lights on and you need to put them on quickly. That's the big thing. So let me cut this stuff up and start drilling some holes. We will get back onto this and start cutting these mounts to accept this stuff. Well, that was a lot of drilling. It's like, yuck. I hate drilling things. All right, what are we doing now? Well, we made the plates. This is going on the bumper, you know, and this will be the integrated part. Now, you're probably wondering, why do you make the hole so big? Well, it's for this. See these? These are mounts. I think they're from a seat. I'm not really sure. I found them in the bin because you know, all these oddball things that I pull out of cars, I throw it in one big pile and I just look through them. And I had a bunch of these. So what I drilled these holes to fit this shoulder. So it goes in like that. That way, when I have the lights on this, it's not going to move anywhere, and I can just barely hold it, and then I can run the bolt like this through it. And here's the plate right here where it's going to be, and I'm going to weld around like this. Bolt fits in like that, and that way it's a no-brainer, you know. And the light we weld it onto this. I think it's pretty decent. Now, what I have to do in the back is I have to use a washer because it's, you know, they stick out a little bit, and the nut like that. And what am I using for bolts? Well, I'm using Ford Focus bolts, or European Ford bolts. Why am I using it? Well, you know, like another thing, I had them, but they have a nice shoulder right here, and they have an integrated washer, and look at the height. They are 12 by 1.75 thread pitch. I can use this. This is from a Mark III, German Volkswagen Audi. Same thread pitch, you know, same, you know, height, a little bit longer, but it has, you know, like a self-starting thing, you know, where you just put it in. But the thing was, it has a 19mm head, and look at how shallow that is. I like the Ford better because it's so much, you know, taller. I can get the socket around it, and I'm not going to be tightening these things to 200 foot-pounds. You know, they're just going to be blasted on with a gun. You know, I mean, they're good. These things are good for 50, 60 pounds at least. So, but I'm only going to put like 20 pounds on because I don't really need that much. And you're probably saying, well, if you don't need that much, why are you using that bolt? Well, these mounts, which I didn't make, which I just had, this thing fits in there, and with this, you know, with this shoulder right here, there's no movement on it, which is, I'm sitting there going, well, that's a kind of a win. So what I gotta do is I gotta clean up all this stuff, flap wheel it all down, make sure it's okay, and then I will, how do I want to say this? Then I'll basically put it all together, you know, weld it up, and then we'll start installing it on the bumper. Remember, when you're putting the bushings in, if yours are like mine, and they are just a little bit further, you know, in there, which is about half the width of the washer, make sure the washer is in there, because sometimes it'll cock over like this, like that, and you're trying to, and it'll compress in and it won't get a good bite. So you want to make sure that the bushing is fully in the center of the washer. That's the big thing. Here we go. Now ready to tack it in. We'll just tack the bolts. I'm going to take a wire brush to get this stuff off, and basically tack in the washers, tack in the nuts, and tack in the bushings to the mounting plate. Then we can get on to doing the bumper. Alright, I screwed up a little bit here. I chipped that on that side of the bumper. Yeah, no great loss. I gotta do body work to it anyway. What I have to do next, I have to put a tie bar in between here just to lock everything in. And then I gotta build the plates for the bottom, but I also have to pull the intercooler out so I can get at the tie bar. Also, the intercooler piping right here, I gotta cut by about 10 to 15 millimeters just so I can bring this thing up so it's equal. So you can see like the fins go down and into the bottom of the bumper. Then you can just bring it up and it all looks level and looks pretty decent. I also bring the bottom one of these things up also. So the mount that's on the chassis. But that's minor because remember I only did one tack. This is the reason why. When you keep going through this, you're going to keep going here, there, readjust this, readjust that. That's the name of the game. So let me pull this off and start taking all the stuff apart so I can build that crossbar. Now we got to finish the tripod mount. We have to make a plate for right here, attach it onto this, and then we can make the mount. I have the mount. I'll show you what I'm going to use for this plate to attach to this plate. Okay, this is what we're going to use for the the bottom mount right here. This is the donor plate for that. I'm just going to cut it in half. You know, it goes right there, no problem. You know, I might have to cut a bit less than half. You know, cut it a couple times, but it should work right out. What am I going to use for stabilizers? Right here, I'm going to use this. This is Eurovan seat mount, of course. I'm going to cut the small section off because there's a 8mm hole. That's kind of what I want to use. I'm going to drill an 8mm hole in here where I want it with a nut behind it, weld it. Not yet, but you know, have it all set up, and that way we can get this thing squared away because we only need one plate down there because this is going to be the stabilizing bar. It's time to come together. There we go. Well, before I do the lights, put the luxury lights on the bracket, then figure out how to mount it. What we have to do next is we have to do the brake ducts. The brake ducts is going to be doing a couple of different things. Here, let me pull the bumper back off and let me show you. All right, here is the frame rail that we're going to duct the air to the brakes. First thing is, we need the ducting to connect to the bumper, because we're going to use that as part of the material that we're going to use to basically attach the bumper to this frame. That's some of the material, because it's all going to be panel bonded. We got to do a couple things with the ducting. First thing, direct the air to this rail, to this duct, for the brakes. Second thing is, we also want to have it like almost an alignment tool, where two pieces of the ducting right here will go in every single time, and that the bolts will going to line up, which is the next task. The next task is, when this ducting is on here, you weld a tab to the bottom of the ducting and a tab to this plate, which makes sure that the nuts that are welded onto the bottom always are in line with the bolts that are on the top here. That way, there's no hassle. All you do is you slide it in. This is lined up. You just feed the bolts in there and tighten them in. That'll be it. The bottom ducting, don't know yet. I might use it to tie in to these plates. Not really sure. But we'll have to see exactly how the bumper fits and where the ducting is going to go. So let me go out and grab some material. I'm going to put the bumper back on so we can get this fitted up and so we can finish up the episode. Just a little too long on the bottom, about a centimeter. Not bad. Quick fix. Well, that's where it's fitting. it's the three sides are in. The bottom is just a regular plate that goes up inside. I have to weld the tab for the rest of the mount on the bolts. I have to do that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go do the other side, and then we're going to finish up with the lights, because those two things are pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. But let me finish up. Let me go do the other side so I can get the lamp pods on, and we call it the end of this episode, because I bet you it's getting pretty long. This might even be part 2. I don't know. This is, how can I put it? The gold Rolex of your car. No. It's the cheap Rolex. It's the one you bought for 25 bucks from a guy on the street. It's like, yeah, okay. These are the rally lights that I used on my old Audi rally car. My first iteration of rally cars, I used Bosch rallies. Great headlamp. Rally lamp. I remember they used to sell them in, like, there's a place called Kmart. I doubt if you all know who it is, but it's like a store, like a retail box store or whatever. And what it was is that they used to sell Bosch rallies. And my friend Vinny used to go to every single Kmart and buy them. They were cheap, you know. And then I got mine all used, but of course. And but I liked them. They were okay. Then I got these because they were on special. And what it is that you have to make sure you have, you know, left and right indications on this, because I have an L marked on here from 1996 probably is when I last used it. And the reason, and to get on to the mounting situation, because I have left and right, the reason is because of these lights. These lights are set up in 3 different aspects. The first one on the top is the pencil beam. The pencil beam light has a very concentrated light. It goes really far down. And then you have your second one, which is your basically your driving light. It goes somewhat further down, but a little bit wider dispersion of light so you can see the road. And the third one is the fog lamp, which is it's like a big line of light, what it is, but it's really wide and doesn't go very far. You want this one on the outside. And the reason is because when you're sideways driving around corners, you want to see everything that's there, and it really helps out. And you can adjust and have them set everything, you know, towards this light and this thing, and when it's left and right, when you put them back on, they work fantastic. Now, the reason why I went with the dowel pins on this mount in a stabilizing mount is because of this. This is the mount that I originally used, and what it is they were hard to put on. They were a bitch to put on, and as it hold up and mounted to the bumper, and they wobbled around. It wasn't that great a setup. I have on my Escort Cosworth, my rally car, on that, I have a lamp pod that goes right on the hood. It's fantastic, absolutely. You know, it's great. But I digress. First thing is, I got to cut off this old mount, and then we're gonna slice this and try and make everything fit to there. And we also have to make sure we can get 2 extensions with 15 millimeters bolts inside there. So this thing has to be like this, so I can get the extensions in there and pull them right out as fast as I can, just to make it easy. All right, so let me cut this mount off, and we will start tailoring it to that so I can clean this up and we can get this thing all squared away. Yep. Looks pretty cool. Well, it's starting to come together. You know what? I had to put the lights on for my own sanity. That's what I had to do. You have to, say, oh, you did something. Because everything else is internal. You never really see it. But what did we do? Kind of did a lot, I mean, major things. We got the bumper assembly on, and we had the headlights in. We got the rally lights on, and we got pretty much this stuff filled up inside here. And you can pull it off. A couple things. Pulled out the hood pin. Got to redo that. I had to reset the intercooler because I didn't get it straight to the bumper, but the bumper's in the final position. We have to adjust, the bottoms of these fenders. We have the height set. We have to adjust the bottom of the fenders. Other than that, it's all pretty straightforward. Just, drilling and putting pieces of junk metal into something. Well, yeah, I kind of like it, It gives me incentive to keep going. And, putting the lights on. Awesome. Oh my God, I just put it right. It was so easy. I love it. But, try that trick. If you guys have rally lights and have to do it this way, do the dowel pin trick. It really, really works. So, other than that, thank you very much for showing up. Remember, none of this is hard. I'm just a hillbilly out here in New Hampshire. None of this is hard. So, thank you very much for showing up, and you can do it. Trust me, you can get this done. You can build the same thing. You'll probably build it better. Just take my ideas and run with it. Because you never do it right the first time. You always do it right after the 20th time. So all right, thanks again. I appreciate it. Hope to see you soon. Bye now.